Hi, everybody. So in this video, we're going to talk about the general characteristics of blood. Now, let's go ahead and think about, or I encourage you anyway, to think about what you already know about blood. We know that blood is the fluid portion of the cardiovascular system, right? So we know that's, of course, what's going to move through our arteries and our veins. Now, what is the role that we are trying to serve by moving this stuff through the arteries and veins, though? So let's think about what we're trying to do. We know that we are moving things like oxygen and other dissolved gases. We know that we're moving nutrients. We move waste products like urea, fatty acids, and things like that. And we also know that now, after we've had the hormone chapter, that we're moving hormones through the blood. So we know that we have to have a way of moving each of these things through the blood. Now, the blood is also very, very important in that it's going to contain a large portion of our immune system. So we're going to have immune cells floating through here as well. Now, you've also likely heard of blood cells as entities, right? So that tells us that we likely have cells suspended in a fluid, which means the blood itself is going to be a connective tissue. So we're going to have lots of extracellular fluid outside of our blood cells. So we're going to have different portions of that, and each of these is going to have a different job. Now, we know, like I said, that this is part of our cardiovascular system. So cardiovascular, meaning cardio, heart, vascular, vessels. So the heart is what's going to actually move the blood from point A to point B, or move it through the circle. And it's going to be the blood vessels that are going to carry it. So they're basically like the little highways. So you can think about blood vessels as basically being highways, and then the blood cells themselves actually being kind of the cars on those highways. Now, importantly here, we do have different types of blood vessels. We have arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries are going to carry blood away from the heart. Veins are going to carry it towards the heart. And then capillaries are going to allow exchange in between these two places. Okay, so when I say exchange, we're not just talking about gas. We could be talking about nutrient exchange, or taking in waste, or dropping off electrolytes. Lots and lots of different types of exchange will be occurring in these capillaries. But importantly, the capillaries are the only places this is occurring. Now, the things that we're moving down the highways are going to be what we're going to call our formed elements. Now, the formed elements are going to be the cells inside the fluid themselves, okay? So blood is composed of both formed elements and plasma. Plasma is the liquid portion. The formed elements are going to be the cells. So we have different types of cells here. We have erythrocytes, or red blood cells. These are important because these are going to transport respiratory gases, primarily oxygen. You will carry some CO2, but a much larger percentage of the oxygen that's moving through your blood is going to be bound to your red blood cells, whereas very little of the CO2 actually will be. Then on the other hand, we also have our white blood cells. Now, they are considered white blood cells because they're basically going to be kind of clear. So when you spin the blood down, they're going to appear a little different. Now, white blood cells are going to be important, like I said, in our immune function. These are going to help us fight against pathogens in different ways, okay? Now, also in there, we have these little cell fragments that we're going to call platelets. So platelets are just these little fragments, these little pieces of cells. These are going to be very important, though, to help us form clots and thus stop our blood from leaving us. So stop blood loss should we get a cut or scratch or scrape or something like that. Now, those are all the formed pieces, all the stuff that's actually moving through the blood. Now, the fluid portion of the blood, the arena through which these things are moving, is going to be our blood plasma. This is where all of the liquid is going to be, okay? So the liquid is our blood plasma, and it's going to be very important because it contains all of the plasma proteins, dissolved solutes, anything from electrolytes to fatty acids to hormones, all kinds of fun stuff are going to be found in the plasma. But like I said, our primary role here is going to be transportation. We are moving things from point A to point B. We are trying to get bad stuff away from the tissues, and we are trying to get good stuff to the tissues, nutrients, oxygen, things like that. We're trying to get waste products away from those tissues. We're trying to make sure that all the cells have the right electrolytes that they need to do their job, that make sure that they have all of the amino acids that they need to do their job, making sure that we can carry all of the signal molecules that we need. Okay, so we're transporting lots and lots and lots of stuff in here. Now, many of these things are going to move through the plasma itself. So they're either going to be dissolved into the plasma. Some things will bind to particular cells. So oxygen is one that is going to be found bound to our red blood cells, particularly to hemoglobin within the red blood cells. But we do also use the blood for other things too. It is very important for protection. So it's a big part of our immune system. This lets us get immune cells to places that they need to be, as well as cycling potential flagged cells to places where we can get them taken care of. Now, it is also very important for helping us regulate lots of body conditions. If we are moving things like hormones through it, that means we're already playing a role in regulating various body conditions. But the blood itself, some of its functions are also going to be to help us regulate things like body temperature. Say you go outside and it's hot and you start sweating. Well, we cool off by having that water evaporate off of our face or off of our skin so that we can kind of cool that region of skin. However, we can also use that to cool the body if we can cycle some of that cooling away. So what do? We route some blood to the surface of our skin so that it can donate some of its heat to that sweat to allow that sweat to evaporate off and thus cool the body that way. Now we can even do this, or we do this even more by taking, say, muscles and having the muscles generate heat. So as your muscles work, they generate heat. That's kind of why you shiver. But then when you're doing that, you're dumping heat from the metabolism of those muscles into the blood so that when that blood moves from the muscle to somewhere else, it's able to carry some of that warmth with it, okay? And thus release that heat to other parts of the body, which may have less musculature, so you can stay warm that way. Or vice versa, by pushing it towards the surface, we can help cool the body a lot by helping the blood dump some of its temperature and now circulating some cooler stuff through various places. It's also very important in helping us regulate the body pH. It is going to be a sink for excess ions, so excess acids and excess bases. We can put those things into the blood where we have a really great buffer system that's going to maintain our pH right at 7.4, give or take a few thousandths, okay? So there are a few hundredths of percentiles. So this is a very important aspect to the blood as well, making sure that we can maintain that 7.4 pH in the blood while also helping make sure that we can maintain particular pHs in particular places in the body. Now, lastly, we have listed fluid balance here. Fluid balance is also very, very important. We need to maintain a certain level of fluid in the blood. We do this by maintaining a certain level of blood volume. If you drink in a whole bunch of water, well, that's actually going to raise the fluid level in your body and in your tissues and in your blood. Well, your blood can then carry that water to your urinary tract, so we can get rid of it that way. We can carry it to the skin, secrete it as sweat, okay? So we can also just simply have more of it in our mouth and respire some of it. So we can actually lose water in a lot of places, but we can also add water in from our gastrointestinal tract or drink. So you drink it, so you add it to your gastrointestinal tract that way. So we can regulate water in a lot of ways, but we can store a lot of that water in our blood as well. But importantly here, this is also a great way for us to get excess fluid from our tissues out, because we can then push it, say from excess tissue in our hand, push it in the blood so that we can then get it to the kidneys where we can eliminate it later on, okay? And we do the same thing with all of the other stuff, ions and things like that. So it's very, very important for maintaining all these. Now, something else to keep in mind here is that blood is not red and blue, okay? Oftentimes when you look at figures in the book, they're going to be either red or blue. Blood is red, period, okay? It's going to range from either a dark red, say a dark reddish color for blood that is oxygen poor. Notice that I did not say that it does not have oxygen. It's not deoxygenated. It is just oxygen poor. It has a much lower concentration of oxygen bound to it than oxygen-rich blood. Oxygen-rich blood, like you would find in, say, systemic arteries, this stuff is going to be bright, bright, bright red, almost foamy. Like it's kind of a reddish orange color. So it is going to be this bright, vibrant red orange color, whereas oxygen poor blood is going to be dark red. It is not the blue that you see kind of when you look down at your arms or look at your veins in that way. Now, we do also have variance for the volumes of blood. The average here that's listed is 5 liters. However, this range for an average could go anywhere from 4 to 6, depending on how large you are. Bigger you are, the more blood volume you're going to have. The smaller you are, the less blood volume you're going to have, okay? But blood is also going to be quite thick. If you've ever cut yourself and actually been able to touch any reasonable amount of blood, you'll notice that it tends to be very, very thick, like thicker even than motor oil, and it's also kind of sticky, okay? that stickiness, that thickness is actually almost entirely due to the presence of red blood cells. Red blood cells make up a big chunk of the volume of our blood, something like 45% on average. If you have more red blood cells, so say you're up to 50 or 55% or something like that, your blood will be even thicker. If your level is a little bit lower, your blood will be a little bit thinner. So we do have some range here, but blood is red, okay? Oxygen rich, bright red, oxygen poor, dark red. We have around 5 liters or so. And importantly here, it's also quite thick. The thickness is mostly going to be due to the presence of our red blood cells. Okay, so if you have any questions about any of the general characteristics of blood or what we're actually going to be using blood for, or just kind of general overviews, or really anything else in the course in general, please just let me know. All right, thanks. See you in the next video. Bye.